In the pits of Tartarus, I have forged the most diabolical, undisputed, best Honkai Star Rail character tier list of all time. Stay tuned for the results.
It's a very late Sunday. You as an individual have already had a very long weekend, running around, doing errands for other people, trying to catch up on some R&R before you start the next work week. So it ends up being Monday morning, about 2 a.m. You get a text message on your phone. You look, and it's a message from Fantalia, and Fantalia tells you you've left the toilet seat up. So you don't think too much of it. You put the phone back down, you try to go back to sleep. A couple of minutes later, your phone is blowing up. Exact same message. You left the toilet seat up, and this time it's in all caps. And your phone continuously is blowing up. So finally, you get up and you decide, screw it. I'm gonna go check on this toilet seat, make sure I left it down. So you're half asleep, you're stumbling around, you go and you finally make it down the hallway or wherever you gotta go to find your bathroom. You look, cut on the light, and you realize the toilet seat's down. At this particular point in time, the horror starts to come across you, and the blood starts really pumping through your veins as you realize one of two things. Starters, the toilet seat was down. You almost always leave it down after you use the bathroom. But more importantly, you live by yourself. You almost never have company over. So what difference would it make if you left the toilet seat up in general? You then get another text message from Talia. And all it has is this picture of a Sith Lord with Fantalia's face plastered over the front of it saying, "Let the hate flow through you. Stay mad. I hope you don't get any sleep." Fantalia has definitely earned the rank of instigator. Fantalia lives for this ignorant stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if in context of the story, she's probably one of the last Lord Ravengers that we deal with. Now, moving on to the next point that I want to make on this character tier list. This is the best mother in Honkai Star Rail history, and there is no competition whatsoever. Now, I know somebody might bring up other mothers from other medias, other animes, other movies, whatever the case is. Maybe even somebody might mention Himiko, but if their name isn't Mother Kafka, I don't want to hear anything because you don't understand the greatness of Mother Kafka. Mother Kafka could literally be on screen for 5 seconds, sit in a chair with a glass of wine, looking out into outer space, and that would be enough to make the fandom go crazy. I love Mother Kafka. I will defend Mother Kafka. And last time I checked, for anyone who has any kind of an opinion that is not Mother Kafka being the best mother in media history, you don't know what you're talking about. This list was comprised of the most elite of elite character tier list makers, me, myself, and I. And quite frankly, I don't see you having an invitation to this conversation. So guess what? This is an undisputable reality. So for whatever media mother that you have, they can't pale in comparison to Mother Kafka. And you know what? If it wasn't for Mother Kafka, the Honkai Star Rail story wouldn't even be what it is today because our Trailblazer wouldn't even exist because Mother Kafka's DNA literally runs through the Trailblazer's veins. Literally. Don't get it twisted. Put respect on Mother Kafka's name. Best media mother of all time, Mother Kafka. No debate, no arguing about it. Not today. You better take that somewhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no secret that there is a gold mine of potential to be made in the not safe for work industry. And I've decided that the time has come because I might have a crippling gacha addiction in the near future. And so in order to keep my bills paid in the future when it comes to these gacha games, I have made the hard decision and the wise decision to open up an OnlyFeed account. That's right, you heard me correct. I will be opening up an OnlyFeed account. I will be opening up on this month, which is going to be May 333rd day of May. And I've already got some pics lined up. I've been getting in contact with some professional filmers, photographers, and things along those lines, showing off the most magnificent pics of my feet in all kinds of different settings. I've got pictures of my feet with long black socks, short black socks, gray socks, different colored socks. And for those of you who want the most spicy of spiciest content, I even have pictures of my feet in full 144p pixelated vision. Oh, the veins in my feet. I never go to the gym and skip each day. My feet are going to be prestige, and I am confident that the whole fandom that I have, consisting of 0 people, will be highly interested in this. I will have a link down below somewhere in the description for my OnlyFeed account that will be opening up on May of the 333rd day of this month. Thank you so much, and shout out to the website OnlyFeed for allowing me to be on your platform. Arigato. Out of all the characters who have received a Nova Flare so far in Honkai Star Rail, in my opinion, Sparkle has been the second biggest winner out of all of these characters. The only character, in my opinion, who got a better Nova Flare would be Silverwolf. The fact that MiHoYo changed her ultimate from being single target to AoE is an absolute game changer, especially for those who have either E2 Silverwolf or you have E6 Silverwolf. You're actually able to run her as a DPS way more effectively than ever. In regards to Sparkle herself, having that skill point overflow on her ultimate is extraordinarily nice. Now you don't have to worry about wasting skill points points or having to wait until a certain time for you to be able to use the ultimate, so that way you're not missing out on anything. Now you can just pop that ultimate, skill points get preserved. It's phenomenal. One other thing that I really liked about the change that they made for Sparkle is the fact that when she uses her skill on a team ally who has used a lot of skill points in a prior action, she can use that skill and advance them for 0 skill point cost. It's very interesting how at one point in time Sparkle was deemed as the weakest limited harmony character in the game, and now at this point in time she's one of the best options in the game for a lot of players' accounts. It's crazy how that situation is played out. Now in context of the future, I do think Sparkle will continue to have usage as long as MiHoYo makes sure that they release a high skill point usage character every version. Sparkle is probably going to continue to have some type of home to go to. This, however, is a little bit tricky, as you already know, because in version 2, for example, we didn't get a high skill point usage character. You know, we had Inhibitor Lune as a limited character back in version 1. Version 2, we didn't get anything. In version 3, I don't believe we had a high, actually, scratch that. In version 3, we did get Archer, and in version 4, we did get Sparksy, who was just basically like a double ganger of Sparkle. It'll be interesting seeing how future high skill point usage characters come out, and at least we've already got Sparkle offered for free. One other thing that I will quickly mention is Anomaly Arbitration 4.0 King. This was probably one of the best times for free-to-play players to get a King stage clear. Archer is free. People could have got Sparkle for free. Dan Hong PT is free. Remembrance Trailblazer is free. And in this particular gameplay segment that you're seeing, the only 5-star light cones I was using in this team was Bronya's light cone, which I had on Sparkle, and then I had, I believe, either Himiko's or Phainon's light cone on Dan Hong PT. Outside of that, Archer is using the standard cruising light cone from the Herta shop. So a very low cost team, and I was able to make it work. So I was very, very satisfied, and this was a huge improvement for Archer, given that I didn't have Sparkle in the past.
thousand blades, unknown to death, unknown to life, have withstood pain to create many weapons. Yet, those hands will never hold anything. So, as I pray, unlimited blade walks!
In the coming weeks, the in-game modes of Pure Fiction, Apocalyptic Shadow, as well as Memory Chaos will be adding a 3-team mode variation that will have some amount of Jades attached to it. There has been speculation online as to why MiHoYo is making this move at this particular point in time. One speculation that I did see from a player was MiHoYo probably looked and seen how many players were vertically investing, and so they wanted to try to counter these vertical investors by requiring you to have more teams, try to divert that attention away from vertically investing. I personally don't know why MiHoYo is doing this at the end of the day. My personal speculation is they are likely wanting to increase the value of sustains. The reason why I say this is because when I look back at Hyacinth, for example, if you were somebody who wasn't playing a Remembrance character or you were somebody who wasn't playing Blade, Hyacinth was somebody who could technically be skipped, especially given the fact that everyone was able to pick up Dan Hong PT for free if they were playing during that respective time era. So in order for sustained sales to not completely dip into the ground, MiHoYo's answer likely is we're just gonna throw in another team requirement, and by doing so we will naturally increase the value of sustains, because not every team can be played sustainless comfortably anyways. When I think about the sustainless teams that we have in the game, I think of Super Break and I think of the Phainon team. Now in regards to the Super Break / Break teams like Boot Hill, Rappa, Sam, these teams are really good when there's not a whole lot of enemies to deal with, and even if these enemies are hitting hard, it really won't matter because these Break / Super Break characters will tend to put a lock on these enemies and just prevent them from taking a whole lot of actions. Whereas the Phainon team on the other end of the spectrum, the enemy number doesn't really matter so much. What is more important is how front loaded will the damage be. If the damage is going to be very high, then sustainless Phainon might not work very well, but if the damage is manageable and Phainon can out heal whatever damage is coming in, then I do think sustainless Phainon ends up being a very worthwhile option. For every other team comp variation that's out there that's running sustainless, by comparison, in my opinion, it's going to be less comfortable than a sustainless Phainon team or some variation of a Break / Super Break team. If I'm wrong on this, please let me know in the comments. My current speculation is that this will not change how players are investing into their accounts. The horizontal investors, for example, I speculate are going to continue to horizontal invest, and likely their POV is going to be, well, I have to have another team and make sure I have coverage for all the different buffs that are getting pushed, so I have even less of an incentive to vertical invest. There's also certain individuals out there who are horizontal investors that find eidolons to be disgusting. They have the mindset that a character should be complete with E0 S0 or E0 S1 at the most. In regards to your vertical investors, again, this is just my speculation, if the accessible performance floor is going to be increased for a vertical investor, they may have the mindset of, well, you're making the floor harder for me to access. I have less incentive to try out different things, and I'm just going to double down on what I've already been vertically investing into and not branch out as much. The only thing that these two individuals will have in common is that they will probably keep in mind of wanting to make sure that they have enough sustains spread across their 3 teams, more than likely. This is just speculation on my end. Only time will tell if I end up being wrong on this. All right, now that Constance has been out for a few patches, I want to very quickly break down my thoughts on this particular character. I think the reason why Constance enables your Super Break or Break characters to deal Super Break damage prior to the enemy being broken is primarily because of the existence of Anomaly Arbitration, in particular the King stages. Prior to Anomaly Arbitration being a thing, it was completely feasible to break an elite, break a boss, and do substantial damage to that elite or boss before they recovered, especially if you had Ron May in there for the extension. Unfortunately, with an Anomaly Arbitration King stage, bosses tend to have a lot of HP. So imagine going in there with your Boot Hill, your Rappa, your Sam, spam, and you have a very tiny window to actually dish out a lot of damage. You find out that it's not enough damage to actually kill the boss, so you spend so much time weakness breaking the enemy over and over and over again just for this small DPS window, and you find yourself as a player in this position where you can't even clear the fight. MiHoYo's answer for this was literally constants, so that way your super break and your break characters could at least do some means of damage even if the target isn't weakness broken. If it wasn't for constants being released, in my opinion, super break slash break characters would have literally been the worst archetype to use for Anomaly Arbitration King.
Have we met? Cloud scatter. So beautiful! Good fortune. Last words.
Nice second, my friends. Indulge yourselves!
This is more than a fight. Cloud scatter. The candle flickers in your breath. Firefly type 4. So beautiful.
Time to mix things up.
No holding back. Dream vanished. Dreams of a past. Let us dance once more. Have we met? Share good fortunes. Firefly type 4.
Step up, let's see. Nice, my friends. Indulge yourselves!
This is set. Cloud scatter. I will claim victory for myself.
There has been a good amount of Phainon propaganda that has been going around for the past few patches at the bare minimum. That propaganda is if Phainon is not E2, he is unplayable and he's not worth it as a character. Based on my experience playing Phainon since his rerun in 3.7, I highly disagree with this sentiment that has been provided by some parts of the online Honkai Star Rail community. Phainon is a character to where if you at least have his signature light cone and you have him paired with Ceridra, you will be able to still clear content most of the time. Now there are going to be situations to where he's not going to be a very viable pick. Most common would be Pure Fiction, which is going to be his worst performing game mode, at least if you have him at E0 S1. I did take Phainon into Pure Fiction on side 2 for the 4.2 cycle, and I think I scored a 28,900 as his best score. My lowest score was I think 28,000. This isn't the ideal 30,000. However, this score is not so horrendously bad to where another team that has really good investment wouldn't be able to score a 32,000. With this being said, this is just based on 2-team content, and if we're going to be factoring in the 3-team content for Pure Fiction going into the future, this will be more of a noticeable issue. I will say for players who are going to be wanting to play Phainon going into the future, besides having Ceridra there, my other personal recommendation would be to get his E1 or his E2 after you have secured his signature light cone. This will give him more longevity, and you would probably be able to start using him in Pure Fiction a lot more successfully. As far as an Anomaly Arbitration King, every cycle that we've had that I've had Phainon as an option, I have been able to clear every single King stage since I got him on his 3.7 rerun. Me personally, I am going to be looking into investing into his E1 and or his E2 in the event that none of the version 4 future release characters end up being up my lane. I'm also going to be looking into further investing into Hysolins as well, at least with her E1. I'll probably more than likely prioritize Phainon since that is a very low cost team that I have. I have been running E0 S1 Phainon with E0 S0 Cyrene and Ceridra, and then my last slot is normally a flex. Either I'm running Dan Hong on Himiko's light cone, or I end up running Remembrance Trailblazer, who obviously doesn't have any kind of a cost at all. I've had a lot of fun playing with Phainon, and he has some very interesting, unique situational mechanics that he is able to abuse. Take the Full Wish boss in Anomaly Arbitration King in 4.2, for example. There are no flowers that spawn during that boss fight when Phainon's there on the field by himself. So I am wondering if Full Wish will have no flower buds if there's only one character on the field. Also, there's a combat stage that I did, and it had like the duo synergy that we got a little while back, and if you use Phainon, you can actually fight both of the elites at the same time instead of having 2 teams of 2 be split up and you have 2 characters dealing with one elite while you have 2 characters dealing with the other. He basically can bypass that mechanic entirely. It's really interesting. Now, I know there are a lot of players that harp and focus on him eating up a lot of action value, and this is very true. However, this guy is somebody that is completely immune to hard CCs. So going back to Full Wish, for example, when Full Wish does that crowd control attack in the second phase, Phainon is completely unfazed by it. He also has very good sustain as well. Once Phainon gets into his core flame state, he no longer has to worry about any action delay, which is a very common debuff that tends to pop up in the Anomaly Arbitration stages. And one other thing is Anomaly Arbitration also has a repeating theme of putting some type of energy debuff in the stage. And once again, Phainon has a special energy bar, so he doesn't have to worry about those kind of debuffs either. In quick context in regards to Cyrene, I do know that there are a good number of players who will try to say that E0 S0 Cyrene just is not good with Phainon at all. I personally disagree with this sentiment. Under the assumption that you as a player cannot end the fight in a single ultimate phase, I do think Cyrene ends up having a lot of value because she will allow Phainon to stay in that core flame state throughout the course of the fight, assuming that he doesn't get one shot or something along those lines. There's only one particular fight that I can think of to where you may consider not using Cyrene, and that would be in the Lygus fight, because Lygus himself will give an ultimate back to certain characters in the field. If Phainon is the only character on the field, then he is going to get that energy, that ultimate refill. This would be the only time that I can see Cyrene maybe not being a great option, but of course this is only for one particular fight. A piece of advice that I have greatly disagreed with since the early days of me playing Honkai Star Rail is do not pull on character reruns. Now, to me, this advice is extraordinarily disconnected because the reality is if you are a free-to-play or a small spender, even if you were the kind of player who is, you are them, you are the main character, you don't lose 50-50s, you don't lose your 75-25s, you are eventually going to run out of jades. That is an inevitable reality. And even for Leviathan players, this may not make a whole lot of sense either because forbid a Leviathan player started playing during version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5, version 6. There will be certain things that player will have to go back and backpull depending on the team archetypes that they want to play. That's just a simple reality of it. Let me go ahead and give you 2 different examples as to why this never pull and character reruns advice is so bad. Elation is a great example. Yao Guang came out and a decent number of players skipped Yao Guang. It wasn't because they thought Yao Guang was a bad character, but it was simply on the premise that players during that time had no idea how Elation was going to turn out, and so they waited. Now that we have Yai, we have Silver Wolf, we have Sparksy, we have Elation Trailblazer, it paints a good enough picture of how Elation is going to operate, and now players can make the decision being informed on whether or not they should go for Yao Guang when she has a rerun. Let me give you this analogy scenario as if somebody was actually following this advice of never pulling on reruns. Scenario 1, Yao Guang comes out. Somebody says, I have to pull this character now or never. So they pull Yao Guang, and then Sparksy comes out, Yai comes out, Silver Wolf comes out, Elation Trailblazer comes out, and this player doesn't like any of these characters. Well, now you're stuck with a support that is primarily there to buff Elation, which you now have a dead character on your set account. GG's. Let me give you a different scenario. Again, following the same advice and not pulling on any reruns, said player decides, I'm not gonna pull on Yao Guang. But as we get more and more characters for the Elation path, this individual's mindset towards Elation in general starts to change, and they're like, hey, I kind of like how Elation plays. But going off the logic of never pulling a character on a rerun, they now cannot pull Yao Guang. They pull for Silver Wolf, they pull for Sparksy, or maybe they pull for Yai instead of Silver Wolf, but they have no Yao Guang. Their Elation team will never be able to reach its maximum potential because they chose to skip out on Yao Guang, and they have the mentality of I can't pull on reruns. I'm going to give you another example. Mother Kafka. Let's say somebody looked at the Mappa / MiHoYo collaboration and they saw Mother Kafka popping off, looking super cool and whatnot, and so the player decided, I want to start playing Honkai Star Rail. So they come into the game and they find out, oh, Mother Kafka is part of the T.O.T archetype. You cannot play T.O.T without Kafka, or it's going to be extraordinarily scuffed. It's probably going to be unplayable without Mother Kafka. She is the centerfold of T.O.T. So if somebody wanted to play T.O.T, no T.O.T main is going to tell a player, oh, Kafka is an old character, don't pull on her. You can't pull on her because she would be in a rerun position. No T.O.T main is going to say that. Every single T.O.T main is going to tell that person, you want to get Kafka, you want to get Hysolins, you want to get Black Swan. Despite Kafka and Black Swan being older characters, it is completely fine to pull on certain character reruns in this game as long as you as a player know what you're doing at the end of the day. Unfortunately, some players don't know what they're doing, and they also don't try to ask for help either. It's okay to not know what you're doing. I think the problem stems from that unwillingness to ask for help if you as a player actually need it. There's no reason to be super prideful, especially over a video game. If you need help, ask. Since the Stellaron Hunters have started to receive a different playstyle at this point, and Sam's potential future playstyle has been teased off in one of Silver Wolf's trailers, likely is going to be a Swarm Disaster playstyle path, the Path of Prognation. I might be pronouncing that wrong, sorry if I am. I was thinking about what they could do for Kafka moving forward. Prior to the Path of Finality being unlocked in this game, if that does become a playable path, I was thinking they could make things very simple for Mother Kafka. Keep her detonations, but also allow her to be the DOT sustain. So this would literally immortalize her in the DOT team, which would be really good because now if you have Kafka being the detonator and the sustain, you have Hysolins, you have Black Swan, and in that 4 slot, you literally just slot in a future DOT character that's premium, or you could slot in, say, a Ron May, for example, in that very last slot and be good to go. I would love to see a different version of Kafka be taken in that direction, but then again, maybe they'll do something completely different with her. I'm not for sure if I would be willing to go out of my way to build a completely new team around a new Kafka if that said Kafka was not dot based. I don't know. If she was just a regular like crit rate, crit damage DPS that could work with some of the characters that I already have, maybe I would consider it. But if it's a totally new playstyle, I'm not for sure, because with the 3-team content that we're gonna have, getting a team up and running is going to be more difficult than ever, at least from my perspective. effective anyways. All right, I just thought of an exception. Kafka, Silverwolf, Blade, and Sam, all in the same party, all with the path of finality unlocked. And this is going to be one of the main pushes for whatever version that this may come out in the future. That would be a team that I would be willing to invest into. The Stellaron Hunters finally being in a team together, and it synergizes and works outside of Currency Wars, Divergent Universe, Simulated Universe. I would get behind that. I think that would be the only exception. Oh, MiHoYo, if you do that, my life is yours. My wallet will probably be yours too at that point. I probably will no longer be free to play at that particular point in time. Later on in the video, I'll give my thoughts over the night stages very briefly.
My strength.
Don't let waves open your throat.
My purpose is
Destiny isn't chosen.
dragons soaring above the land. This is permanent.
Good times. Time to say bye. Boom. Stand still. Offer you a requiem. What do you want to know?
Ill-tidings. Beneath the water lies an endless abyss.
In the abyss's ravage, your cries rise. Say bye to breathing. Don't let waves open your throat. Be intoxicated. Stand still.
So I'll go ahead and read off some of these comments that was between myself and another individual online. Don Hung, PT, true power is at E2, but a lot of people won't E2 a sustain, even though that would help them much more than most of the characters they were attempting to go for. Having single target DPS with frequent attacks like Archer or Ashvale as bond mate, the Soul Dragon outputs millions of damage and effectively allows your single target DPS to deal AoE damage. Soul Dragon also can enter the backfield during the Sparxicon boss and hit multiple enemies, so you hit each enemy with an archer arrow or two, then action advance the Soul Dragon to finish them off. My first response was a lot of low spenders and free to play simply won't be able to afford vertically investing into a sustain. For a good number of them, as long as the sustain is keeping the team alive, it's good enough. Hyacinth might be an exception for those who picked up Casterus. And then their response to that was low spenders can absolutely afford to vertically invest into sustain, and even long-term free to play can too. Nowadays, with a lot of people having access to Archer team for free and Firefly getting a buff, she is one of the most owned characters in the game along with Ron May, meaning less people will need to build teams from scratch compared to previous versions. Elation is very optional, and that's basically the first 3 patches of this version. Don Hung PT of all things is definitely worth it since you get first copy for free, and this E0 to E2 is like 50% overall team damage increase if you are using him properly on par, or even better than E2 Hyacinth for majority of teams. Only problem is him not having a rerun. And my follow-up response to him was, in the worst case scenario, player ends up using 300 plus pulls for 2 additional copies of Danhong PT. I don't think most players are going to be too happy about that. That trade-off in that context simply isn't going to be worth it for most. Now, if you want to go for Danhong PT E2, go at it if you haven't already. A sustain's main role is to sustain, which he already does at E0. I have multiple teams that I would need to continue to invest into to keep relevant. I don't pull as many characters as some players do out there. If I were to take your suggestion at face value, I would be setting myself back greatly. I suspect the same would apply to numerous other players also. This is coming from a free-to-play outlook. And then this individual's response is, if you just want new characters and chill, that's completely fine, but if you are looking for meaningful upgrades for your follow-up, Sally, Aglaia, Archer teams, then E2 Danhong PT is going to be priority. I don't think most people have actually seen it in action, to be honest. It's just infinitely more reliable shielding, crowd control effect, cleansing, which is about to come in demand with the new boss, which he is referring to Full Wish that we got in version 4.2. Attack frequency and damage compared to E0. He actually feels like a burn at E0 and would be replaced for a next sustain and instantly. But E2, he has a solid and very relevant place in the content for a long time to come. The reason why I wanted to talk about this conversation is because vertically investing is not equal across the board. Now, typically whenever players are vertically investing, the sustain normally has the lowest priority in terms of vertical investing. Now, like I commented earlier, Hyacinth might be an exception in context of like Castorus, because I do believe her E1 gives more HP to the team, but if I'm misremembering that, please somebody correct me in the comments. I'm not the most informed about Hyacinth. The sustain's job is to keep the team alive. If you're already doing that, then more vertical investment isn't inherently going to push your numbers up higher. And if we talk about specifically Full Wish, well, there's multiple ways to get around the Full Wish mechanic. You can either have a team that attacks very frequently and everybody does that. If you do have a character that's, say, a Harmony character in your team, like say a Sparkle for example, Fu Xuan, if you have that sustain on your account, they literally have a field that they can put down that will allow your characters to resist 1 debuff, which actually works. There's also Silver Wolf with her global passive that she has. So there's multiple ways to work around that mechanic, and you don't have to hardcore invest into a particular sustain. The reason why most players are normally going to invest first vertically into your supports or into your DPSs is because that's going to be the most easiest accessible way to get more damage. There's no inherent guarantee that vertical investing into a sustain is going to just outright give you the same results numbers wise. At the end of the day, Honkai Star Rail is a big numbers based game, and sustains have the lowest amount of pressure. Now, with this particular individual having concern with Danhong PT being phased out later on in the future, sure, that is inevitably going to happen at some point. However, he was also given out for free, so it's not really a big deal if a player decides that they're going to just swap out Danhong PT in the future for a different sustain when they got E0 Danhong PT for free just to begin with. Not all vertical investing is equal, and it also depends on the team comp that you're going to be focusing on. Some team comps, they want to really try to focus on investing into the main DPS first. Phainon is a great example, right? You could have all of these vertical investments into all these other characters that's going to be paired with Phainon, but it's not going to matter as much because Phainon is going to end up on the field by himself. So that's the most blatant example I can think of where you would want to have the main DPS be the priority. Acheron is a gray area character. Depending on how you want to play her will determine on whether you want to vertical invest in her first, or you can put that off to the side and vertical invest into the characters that you pair with her first. So for players who want to run Acheron with 1 Nihility character plus say like an Ashvel, or 1 Nihility plus say somebody like Tribby for example, vertical investing into Acheron first is going to be the way to go to open up those kind of options. However, if you're somebody such as myself that is going to play Acheron with 2 Nihility characters no matter what, I can stop Acheron at E1 S1, and then with other characters that I pair with Acheron, I could have further vertical investment into them in comparison to Acheron. So with Cypher for example, I might get her E2 at some point in the future. So at that point, if I do that route, my Cypher would end up being E2 S1, whereas my Acheron is going to be E1 S1. That's just an example. Then you're going to have other team comps to where the vertical investment, whether you do it in a support or in the DPS, is going to be good across the board. You can't really go wrong. So let's say you take Evernight and Castorus for example, E2 Castorus, E2 Evernight, E2 Cyrene, very, very strong trio. That's just an example to where there's a justified reason to get E2 on each one of those respective characters. Now, maybe the Castorus situation will be different different maybe a year from now, and maybe players will feel it's not worth getting E2 on casters anymore. But for right now, at least from what I've seen online, E2 casters does still seem to be very strong based off of videos that I've seen.
Our cute play session with enough believers. Lies become reality! You dare hurt my fans? Come to me! More enemies. Time for fun. You can't run! This combat... This is double speed.
I weep for the departed. It is your fault. Just for this.
My purpose is to dragons soaring above the land. This is permanent.
Take it on. Found me. Don't fight, so I can leave early.
My strength isn't what it was.
I weep for the departed. It is your fault.
This combat me. This is double speed. Our new play session is over. With enough believers, lies become reality. Come to me. More fun this time. Time for fun. This is double speed.
I weep for the departed. It is your fault.
You want to take it back? I'll take it on. More enemies.
Another journey begins. Just for this.
My purpose is to protect.
More fun this time. This combat. This is double speed. Don't fight, so I can leave early. Our cute place with enough believers. Lies become reality.
I weep for the departed. It is your fault.
Dragons soaring above the land. This is permanent.
Free will, or was it still water?
Time for fun. This is double speed.
I weep for the departed. Dust reigns, it too shall fall.
You want to betray me? Eternal melody.
More than a battle.
No holding back. Cloud scatter.
Phainon take 4 in this set.
Grace and elegance. Existence is unity.
Until everything burns to ashes!
Share good fortune. The candle flickers in your breath. Some value as
This is set. You want to betray me?
have we met? Dream vanished.
Firefly type 4 in position.
Memories.
So beautiful!
Dreams of a. Let us dance once more. And last words. There's more to life. Every petal and all will be swept away by the wind. Let's seize this fine moment. Cloud scatter. Eternal.
Like until everything burns to ashes!
No holding back. The candle flickers in your breath. Every petal and all will be swept away by the wind. Let's seize this fine moment. Share good fortunes.
So beautiful!
Some value, I suppose.
This is more than a battle.
Sequencing reorganized.
Until further notice, Flame Reaver is more than likely going to be the biggest pain in my butt every time this boss shows up in Anomaly Arbitration. So in order to properly deal with the mechanics of Flame Reaver, obviously you try to take out the clones as quickly as you can. However, Flame Reaver tends to move very quick, and the clones in the Anomaly Arbitration Knight version tend to have a lot of HP, and if you're not running something like a Castorus Remembrance team, for example, it's very, very hard to operate with. And when I think about it, this guy literally counters my whole entire account in this context, because T.O.T gets countered in a sense because the clones don't take actions. Phainon gets countered because, for starters, off element, and then on top of that, there's the bounce aspect, which doesn't do very well in 5-target scenarios. My Blade Jade AoE team just does not do enough damage. If I use Sam's Super Break, I actually am going to end up breaking him, and then I don't want to do that because now I'm not taking out the clones like I need to, which is going to be impactful in the second phase of the fight. So I'm just cooked all the way around. I don't know what the solution really is for me on this. I feel like investing in the T.O.T vertically more in the future is probably going to be my best bet based off of what I have working on my account, and that's all I can really think of. And geez, this boss is even worse if you have any type of energy debuffs to have to deal with on top of that. Like, my goodness. The other two night stages this go around I was able to manage, and I'll have gameplay for night 3 after this Flame Reaver stage. If you had taken out the time to watch this or listen to this, I want to say thank you so much for your time. You be safe out there. Deuces.
This combat meet. This is double speed.
Found me.
Let's play for a while. Can you find the answer?
You want to take advantage?
This combat. This is double speed.
Don't fight, so I can leave her.
I'll go east first. Little sticky.
Found me.
Can you find the answer? This combat meet. This is double speed.
You want to take advantage?
私の番か。
Our cute play session is over. Elation. Become